Hi there, and welcome to the Live Vybrant Podcast, where we explore how to live with energy, purpose, and intention. I'm your host, Joshua Haag, a holistic lifestyle, performance, and success coach with a background in professional sports and 2 decades of coaching experience. Each week, I sit down with experts across a multitude of fields, including wellness, finance, and personal growth, to uncover practical strategies that will help you thrive in every area of life. Let's dive in and help you live your most vibrant life. I am absolutely happy and privileged to have Doris Walsh with us today. She's the founder of, get ready for this, Happy Bunny Coaching. It is a life coach and leadership coaching company for the high achieving parent. If you're tired of being everything to everyone, this is your girl. So all the parents who I know listen to this from Heroic, from my company, and that we've been growing, listen up. This one's for you. Doris, thank you so much for coming onto the show today.
Absolute pleasure, Josh. Lovely to be here.
Good. So, okay. Happy Bunny Coaching. Where in the world did you get the name? It lit me up when I originally found you, and every time I say it. Where'd you get it?
So it took a while. So when I first started my coaching business, there was this advice. There's always advice about everything, right? And it was if it's your own, use your name. But I was like, I'm not quite sure which kind of niche I was going to go into, and nobody knows me, so, and the advice was, if you already had an audience, use your name. But I had nobody, right? I was starting from literally zero. And I was like, well, I don't want to use it. And then it was this whole, as I was going through the journey of really discovering me, I wanted to be less serious, right? I was doing a whole load of research, and lots of coaches have these beautiful, serene backgrounds that are just like, where you would go on retreats, right? And I'm like, yay, I'd love to have that feeling. But that's not really what I do coaching. I want it to be fun, and I want it to be an extension of who I am. Now, I want it to be kind of like, when people look at my website and then they come to face with me, they're like, yeah, okay, I see the connection. I'm quite a vibrant person. I'm very colorful. So I wanted the kind of vibrant. So with the name itself, I was like, how do you name a company, right? So lots of iterations. And then it kind of fell together. So in the Chinese calendar, I'm a rabbit. I was born in the year of the rabbit, hence bunny came in. And there was suddenly this phrase that we use. Typically it's in a negative. It's like, well, he's not going to be a happy bunny, right? When he hears that, or she's not going to be a happy bunny. I was like, but I want my people to be happy bunnies after they've gone through that whole coaching journey with me. So that's kind of how it came up. When my husband heard it first, oh my God, he was like absolutely horrified. It's like, you can't call your company Happy Bunny. And I was like, why not? And his head was going somewhere else, like the Playboy bunny. And I'm like, nah, honey, I'm not giving that kind of happiness, right? And he was like, you can't call it that. And then I called my website designer. I was like, I think I've got an idea, Happy Bunny. And he was like, oh, amazing. Oh, this, yes, I can definitely play with this. So that's kind of how I went on with it. And so I've got the .coach. Hopefully that means something to people. But yeah, it makes me happy every time I think about it. So
it's absolutely brilliant, and you can't not say or think about it and not smile. So it's perfect, especially if you're trying to bring that energy or that coaching into someone's life, that vibrant energy that you give off. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So that's really awesome.
Thank you.
What got you into the coaching, the leadership role, or coaching leaders, and kind of the idea of a specific niche, even in terms of the high achieving person? What took you here?
Okay. Well, so a little bit about my background. I came from 20 years of corporate, and towards the kind of probably last 5 years of my corporate career, I started feeling this little bit of discontent. I've always really enjoyed what I did, right? All the roles that I did, all the international placements and all this kind of stuff. But I got to a point where this is it, and I was like, well, if this is it, I thought it was going to be more fun by that point. And then, anyway, what happened was COVID happened, and then the company was downsizing in the UK. I'm based in the UK, and I kind of put my hand up and said, yeah, I'll go. Can I go, please? It was a nice package to go with it. And as I took that, my husband, who was also working for the same company, got headhunted, and then we moved the whole family to Greece from the UK. He said, do you fancy another adventure, honey? And I'm like, yeah, let's go for another adventure. So we took the kids, set it up in Greece, and while we were there, I was like, do you know what? I'm going to take this time out and really figure out what Doris wants to be when she grows up. I just turned 50, by the way, right? So, it's never too late. This is what I'm saying, right? So I took some time out because the kids, I needed to help the kids settle in school. It was a culture that we didn't know. We didn't have any friends there. So it was basically a brand new scratch. So I was like, okay, I took the time out, and then throughout that, so probably was about less than a year in when something kept pulling me to this thing called coaching. And it wasn't something I knew but never really experienced before. While I was leaving corporate, I was being helped by a career coach, but I was like, if that's what real coaching is, then that really didn't ring all my bells, right? So I was like, okay, let me explore it further. I did some research, found some people that I knew who were in that space, and decided that, yeah, I'm going to give it a go. I mean, why not? And so I joined a coaching outfit, and I did it virtually. And the first time I stepped into the virtual classroom, it was like I was coming home. It was really strange. I had not had that feeling before. It was just like I felt so warm and cozy. It was as if I had this really nice warm jacket on that I put on. Had lots of pockets, and I didn't know what was in each pocket, and it was really exciting, and it just felt amazing, and I hadn't had that kind of experience ever before, so that took me on that journey. And with all of that obviously came coaching for me as well, and then obviously not long after that I was starting coaching people. So this is how I got into coaching. And then my people, why I feel kind of called to coaching these high achieving parents, is because I kind of was one of them myself. If I'd had a coach like me 7 years ago, 10 years ago even, right, to help me see things in a different way, I think I would have felt more at ease. I would have had more fun. Throughout my corporate career, even with kids, the last 10 years of it with kids, was very much more doing. Do more, do more, do more. And the guilt about not feeling as if I was enough for my kids and not doing enough as a professional. And, it's always that guilt that kept on coming, and then the resentment and all these other feelings. If I'd had someone there to say, hey, actually, what is it that you truly want? What does success look like for you now, right? No one asked me that. I asked myself that after 20 years in corporate, like, what does success look for me, Doris, right now? And I'm like, well, all the things that I thought was successful for me was the same definition I had when I started my corporate career in my 20s. Right? And I was like, well, that's not success for me anymore. So if someone was there to help guide you, to help you see things differently, it's so powerful, because we have so much baggage around us, right?
That's super powerful. How do you even begin to unwind or unravel someone? Like, I coach a lot of parents, executives, high achievers, all that sort of stuff, but I come at it from the fitness side of things. So fitness is usually my like Trojan horse. Like squats and push-ups are pretty easy for interjecting myself into someone's life, but I'm very holistic in the way I coach, right? So we do sleep, exercise, nutrition, stress, and social relationships. That's the pillars of our company. And the social relationship side of things are, how are things at home? How are you with the kids? Are you managing time and your schedule and things like that? And a lot of the times, like planning a workout twice a week is pretty easy. Getting them to start to take time for themselves, or, understand balancing work with the kids, that amount of stress, if we can start to reduce it, they see all the other effects of exercise and stuff like that. So coming at it from your lens, from your angle, how do you start to interject yourself into someone's life? How do you make it known that they need you? Like, how does this even begin?
So for me, it begins with sharing my story. That's what I do on my socials, is to share instances. So instances like, do you remember that moment where, you rocked up at school and you forgot it was make-believe day, and your kid still rocked up in your school uniform instead of being Harry Potter or Matilda or whatever else? Every parent has done that, right? Where you forgot something that day because you're so busy doing life. And then the whole parents guilting, right? This whole, mom guilt or dad guilt or whatever. I start by talking about their situation, right? Because, and this is the thing, sometimes it is not a big fat brush. Everyone is different, right? Everyone is different, and this is why I love the whole coaching. This must be the same for you, right? With the whole personal training fitness. Everyone comes in a different way, different goals, different whatever, and that's exactly the same when it comes about the whole kind of mindset thing as well. Because we all come in with different baggage, different experiences, and it all comes down to, that question: what is it that you truly want, right? Or it comes down to, where is the biggest pain point when it comes to you and your family or your career, or what I call that holy triad trinity, right? Family, career, and self, right? If I had to ask you potentially to give it marks out of 10, 1 out of 10 in terms of where you believe that you feel that you are in your career, where you feel that you are with your partner and kids, and for yourself, 1 to 10. 1 being really not happy, 10 is I got this, right? Simple things like that, right? That by itself will probably highlight where you could potentially improve on. Because I haven't yet met a person in my coaching who says I'm 10 out of 10 in career, 10 out of 10 in terms of parenting, and 10 out of 10 in terms of who I am, what I want, and all that kind of stuff. I've never met one of them.
Right. But how do you break the barrier down? Because a lot of the times I see, and I know parents that are so lost. I don't want to say defensive. Once you start grilling down on them, they get scared because they haven't dreamt in 20 years. They haven't thought about themselves, and they lose that sense of courage, right? Because it is courage. How do you break that barrier down? How do you get them to take the first step to even grade themselves and say there is more? How do you get that?
So my firm belief is that I can't help anyone if they don't believe that they need help. So the number one for me is always that awareness. Does this individual who's sitting in front of me have some awareness that something in their life is not where they want it to be or where they'd hoped it to be, right? So do they have that awareness to say, okay. Lots of people are defensive, right? And that's totally normal, especially, when they've grown up to say, hey, achievement equals big fat success, right? And achievement has given them their massive salaries or the vacations or the school fees or whatever else, right? All these external things that are outside from them. And they think, okay, right? And if that's okay for you, but like you, are you sleeping well? How is your diet, right? How is your stress level? Because if everything is perfect, then there's no stress. You never get annoyed with your kids. You never get annoyed with your team members. When there is a sudden, thing that comes, lands onto your plate, you don't stress out. You just say, yeah, I'm dealing with it. You're all zen all the time. Then you probably don't need coaching. But if in any one of those situations, when something unexpected happens and it pulls you out for a spin, right? And then you get stressed, or however you behave in a negative energy type of way, right? Then there's something there. Do they believe that needs fixing? Well, that's down to them. It is not so I believe that for me, I'm not there to convince them that they need a coach, because not everyone needs a coach, right? A coach for me is you have looked at something and you believe that there's some value in having someone help you on that journey, because either that coach or that mentor or that consultant or whatever, right, therapy even, is going to help you understand something that helps you then move forward. If there's no forward momentum required, then most likely I'm not going to be the right person to talk to, right? If there's no other goal that you want to achieve, then that's okay. But it's all about getting people to really be truthful to themselves. Let's and this is what I do. I create that same stuff. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to say that you're crazy or you're wrong or you're right, because my wrong or right might be totally the opposite for you, right? What I see as wrong doesn't mean it's wrong for you. I believe my children, should eat 5 vegetables a day. You believe it's 1. I don't care, really, right? Whatever is right for you. But only those people who are aware that there's just something not quite right, then they're ready. Then they're ready for coaching. Because I'm not here to convince anyone that everyone should need a coach. If I had the choice, everyone should have a coach. Everyone should have a coach in terms of the mindset, in terms of fitness as well, to help you set those goals, right? To achieve the next thing that you want.
I think a powerful piece to having the coach is a mirror as well. Someone to look at you. I would say it's objectively.
No, not subjective.
Objectively. Yeah, objectively. And to give you feedback on where you're at currently. And sometimes we don't. It's interesting when and the same goes mentally in terms of goals, in terms of life, in terms of stress. Sometimes we get so far off of what normal or natural looks like, we don't know what it feels like to be back. I'll use posture as an example. Let's say a person's walking for the last year with their shoulder dipped down to the right. They don't know what it feels like to be aligned until you bring them back to an alignment position. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this is so new. This is so weird, but it's normal. And so I think the same happens in the headspace in terms of goals, stress, life, the whole thing, where you get so far kind of off kilter, so far turned, all of a sudden we need someone to help kind of point the direction and be like, well, have you thought about it like this? Have you looked at it from this? Have you taken this action? Like, it gives you that sense of, I say a mirror, but a sense of feedback.
Totally. And I think that's why it is important to have someone who is external to you give you that feedback, right? Because when we're all in our own heads, we just hear our own voices, right? And typically, if I keep saying to people, it's like, and I'm working on this, it's going to be a continual process for me. But when I was at my worst, that voice, that toxic voice that I have got inside my head, if I ever said that out loud, right, to anyone, I'd have no friends. I'd be in prison, right? I mean, I'd be in jail. They slap me in jail, right? And I'd have no friends. Seriously, and because people are like, why would anyone want to listen to that horrible stuff that I've got in my own head, right? And that's the thing. It's that we say so much, right? We say so much, and part of my job, I think, depending on the client, kind of helping them understand a little bit about how the brain works, right? Ultimately, when we are born, we're only born with two fears, right? The fears of loud noise and the fear of falling. The rest of it, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of I'm not worthy, the fear of, oh my God, whatever. That's all just something that we've learned through growing up. And when you can bring it all back down to basics and say, hey, actually, you have learned all this, you can unlearn it. But sometimes it's quite a bit more difficult, especially when you've done something automatically. So I use that very simple analogy of driving. When we're learning to drive, we have to make sure that we do things in the right order, signal and the mirrors and the indication and the hand move, and the steering wheel, right? Once you've learned it, right, you're sitting there driving away with just one hand, the other hand on the windscreen or whatever else, right? And you're listening to music, all this kind of stuff. And you get these kind of what I call bad habits, right? It's about unlearning those bad habits so that you're back to, like you keep saying, back to neutral, right?
To yourself.
It comes down to that kind of back to yourself and say, what choice? And now, from that position, what choice do you really want to make? That you don't have to do, right? And you don't need to do, but you choose to do, that you really want to do, right? To get into that kind of position so that you make a conscious choice rather than a subconscious choice.
I like it. Realistically, you had hit on it, but I'm hoping you'll dive a little deeper into it in terms of the goals portion of it. Okay, we know we have to make some sort of choices here. We know we need help. I've already, from what you said so far, for those listening, let's say I've already gotten to the point of like, a coach is something that's interesting. I might take it. We're going to now step into the goals realm. How do you help someone start to find their goals? Or refine their goals? Maybe it's a 55-year-old financier who's ready to be done with finance or ready to change career, whatever. How do you help someone start to go down that path?
Well, there's a whole host of tools and techniques that we can use to get to that. What I find really, and this is where, it is, it'll be different depending on different people. Some people are very analytical. They sit in the left brain, right? They look at data, and it's all about bringing the mind and the heart and the gut all together, kind of aligning all of that, right? So that, because, when we are very little, when you see little kiddies, they're just having a whole host of time. It doesn't matter what day, what time, they're just having fun, right? They see a puddle, they jump in it, right? They don't care whether they're going to get dirty. They're just having fun. For me, this is how I coach my clients, is bring them back to that kind of child-like joy. That means getting out of your brain, getting to feel really, and really feeling your body, right? When you're angry, where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your hands? Do you feel it in your legs? Whatever else, right? And it's the same kind of like to fitness, right? When you bench pressing or when you're doing, back squats with weights or whatever, is this too heavy for you now, right? Or, the bar is not quite right. You're swinging to the right a bit, right? Now, well, that's going to hurt, right? Your back, lower back. It's all about those kind of techniques to say, hey, what does it feel like when you think about your current situation? And then it's the simplest kind of visualizations, right? If I was, I love this, sharing it with my clients and say, hey, just imagine I'm your fairy godmother. Close your eyes. I'm your fairy godmother. Anything that you ever wanted in terms of the money, in terms of your physical body, in terms of where you'd live, right? Whatever you wanted, I snap my fingers and you've got it. What would you be doing then? What would excite you in that moment? This is sometimes can be quite tricky depending on people, because some people are not very visual, right? They can't see the picture of that. Some people are, but it's kind of like, what would feel really good? Even if you can't describe, what it is that you would want. How do you feel? If I could take away all your money worries, all your mortgage payments, kids' school fees, promotions, whatever, take whatever you wanted, whatever position you want, you've got it. How would your life feel like? How does that feel in your body? Right? Keep them back into body. Most of the people I work with sit up here typically, and it's kind of get them into the body, because once you're aligned, because actually they do know, everyone knows really, but you got to listen. We're so used to listen to external noise, and it's all about turning that back in. What does your heart say?
I also think
You just haven't.
the answer's in there. You just have to listen. And I think a lot of people not only know it, but I think they justify against it. I see a lot of people that are always creating an excuse. They know they're doing it. When I say something wrong, I'll use the busy executive who's spending way too much time at work and not with his kids. He knows where he should be. My mom always says, what does your heart say? Not what does your head say? Same thing.
Yeah.
The moral compass is usually not wrong. Interesting.
And yeah, so when you have clients, for instance, right, do you ever get clients who, they rock up regularly for a while and then they drop off? Yeah? What
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
say to those people?
As they're dropping off?
If they are, to encourage them to come back.
Truthfully, I give them, and this is contradictory and might go against what you're saying, but I give them space. I give them, we'll sit down and chit chat. And is this really the best thing for you? If they even will chit chat with me. A lot of people by the time they leave with me, they're not communicating it because they're a little bit ashamed. They know they should be continuing and they're dipping out the back door. So it's not necessarily this like really good experience in terms of leaving. Right. I've rarely had people who have done everything right, gotten to their goals and been like, all right, here we go. It's usually that the people who I have stay with me for years and years and years. Right. And so if I get the chance to talk with somebody, it's more about, hey, have that space. If that's what you're called to do right now, if that's what you feel, have that space. My door is open. I'm ready for you when you're ready to walk that path again, when you're ready to go down that road. But I don't actually ever forcibly talk somebody into training with me. So that might not have been the answer.
No. But that's the same. It's the same in coaching, right? I can't convince someone to do coaching, right? If they are coming to me for a few sessions and then suddenly they drop off, like you, I'm like, I'll give them space because life happens, right? Things may have not gone well in their own personal space or work, or they just need some time out. Of course, have the time out. But for me, it's that are you using that as an excuse, right? Because you feel as if I've gotten something out of this coaching already, right? I am fixed now, right?
Correct.
Well, how can you be fixed in 3 sessions? Excellent, right? I'm some miracle worker if that's true, right?
Exactly.
But because they feel, but they feel as if they've got a little bit of a plaster. I've got a bit of a plaster, right? A band-aid, right? In American, I've got a band-aid. I'm feeling good now. I'm feeling good, right? That's okay. But it's kind of but you don't understand. This is just a service level, right? If you stick with it, right, for years, for instance, it's a 6-month program. Well, 1 month and you're thinking you're done? No, this is just the easy bit, right? There's got to be harder bits that really gets you that transformation to where it is that you want to get to, your goal, right? But sometimes when it comes to a little bit of tension, a little bit of pain, they hightail it out. Well, I try to wheeze out first because I'm here to help you make that transformation. I'm not here to kind of give you just a band-aid because that's not going to serve you. It might serve you for the next month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months even, but then you're going to be back. And I'm like, yeah, but you're then going back to the same spot. You're just moving forward and you're going back. You go forward and then you come back, right? You always end up to the current equilibrium that you're on. And we're saying that with coaching and personal training is that, hey, you want to lose 20 pounds? You got to stick with this, right, for 6 months or whatever long, right? And then you're 20 pounds less. Yes, you've currently lost 5 pounds. You do nothing else. You come stopping. That 5 pounds and more is going to come back. And in 2 months' time, you come knocking at my door again. Say, Josh, it didn't work. Are you really surprised it didn't work? It's that commitment, right, that you need. So yes, like you, I'm not going to here to convince anyone, but it's kind of like, are you committed to see it through? Because I am, right? I am here. I'm here as your cheerleading squad. I'm here to walk the journey with you, but I can't do the work for you, right? It's like you. I can't do the 100 squats for you, right, to make you fitter. If only that I could do that, right? I'd love
right.
That, right?
I'd be in business.
Right? You got to do the work. Yeah. It'd be great if someone could pay me, pay me to talk to myself, right, for hours and hours and hours on end, and I would serve you, and you would get better. You would get clear all this fog or this noise that is inside your head. If I could do that, gosh, You and I wouldn't be talking. You and I'd be talking, still talking, but on some fancy island somewhere with some beautiful cocktails or whatever else, right?
Happy Bunny Island.
Yeah. Well, hey.
Tell me about your journey and something you had hit on. If you turned around and looked at my apartment here, my flat, I have all sorts of positive affirmations and different, through my journey of professional careers, kind of the mental states that I've been through and the coaching that has helped me. The toxic voice is real. And whether or not we are open to admitting it, I believe every person has it, like you had said, and every person wrestles with it. What do you do either personally or with clients to help someone move through their toxic voice, to start to understand it, to accept it, that it is there, but then also move them through it, to learn to overcome it? What do you do? How do you coach?
So how coach, I typically have a couple of assessments that helps people understand where that toxic voice comes from first. So that helps with the kind of education part of it. And then we use that to really understand, hey, so for me, for instance, I'm a big avoider, right? I'm a big avoider in terms of when things get a little bit difficult, or I perceive it to be a difficult or not much fun, I will procrastinate. I will find 20,000 nice shiny other things to focus on, and I feel great while I'm doing it, right? I'm like, oh, I'm learning. I love learning new things. But look at this, and I've learned that, but it doesn't actually deal with the issue that I've got right in front of me, right? Because I'm just kind of avoiding it and ignoring it. And what happens is that, when it's only me who can deal with it, it doesn't move, right? It actually becomes bigger the longer I avoid it. So instead of dealing with something small, when I eventually can't ignore it anymore, it's become this big a thing, right? So for me, as an avoider, what I do is say, well, okay, this, whatever the task is or whatever it is I do, and I don't really particularly enjoy it, for me, someone, it's kind of like, all right, I say to myself, it's kind of like, Doris, no one has told me that I have to eat. It's kind of like, this whole elephant in one go. Like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So it's equivalent for me. It's kind of like, hey, no one says that I have to spend the next 10 hours doing nothing but this task. How about I just do 1 minute? Just 1 minute, right? I take my phone, I put a minute on, and I just focus on that. Nothing else, just that one thing. And lo and behold, I started, and it's actually not that bad. I've done something. The alarm goes off, right? I'm like, woohoo, look at me, right? Who's awesome, right? I'm awesome because I committed to something for 1 minute. And this is one thing that I do want to stress, right? Let's celebrate simple things. Let's not just celebrate when we've achieved a massive milestone, right? We celebrate so little in our life, right? We always wait for a big thing. So my biggest thing for my clients is celebrate something little. It's kind of like, I only did this for 1 minute. Okay, I did it. Do I feel that I can do 2 minutes next? I'm not feeling it. Okay, I'll leave it for an hour and then I'll come back to it, and I'll do something else for an hour or whatever, and then I'll come back. Right? And it's kind of like the same, I deal with a lot of people who are high achievers, who are very perfectionist. They will only do things when it's, and only deliver things when it's 100% perfect. And you're like, well, they're wasting a whole load of time and energy, right? Doing that extra, 2% to make it perfect, right? And it's an inordinate amount of time that probably doesn't warrant it, because no one is going to pay attention to that, right? And for them, it's kind of like, hey, is whatever task that you're doing, does it really require 100%? Or can we kind of say 80-20 will do here, right? And make that distinction in their head, say, hey, this type of task doesn't require me 100%. It is okay just to do, right? Gut instinct, do, right? And then deal with it. So it's unwiring for me, with a lot of this is unwiring how they've actually behaved so far, right? Because this toxic voice will tell you, right, what your brain is really there to do, right? Your brain isn't built for success. Your brain is there to delay death. That's all it's trying to do, right? Whenever something new comes in, right, it's saying, I don't know this. Well, I'll get this person, my brain. Don't do this, Doris. Don't do this, Doris, because if you do it, you will die. You will die. My job as a brain is to stop you from dying, right? No matter if I was to do that, it's going to get me to my goal. My brain will tell me, no, Doris, you've never done this before. Don't do this. And I'll come up with thousands of reasons, right, about why I shouldn't do it, or how it would feel, or I might try and start it and it won't go exactly how I planned, and immediately says, see, I told you, you weren't going to be any good at this. What do you think? You think you're that awesome? No, don't be stupid, right? All this talk is going on, right? because it's there just to save you. So once I was dedicated to this, I was like, right, okay, all my brain wants to do is to keep me safe, okay, to keep me in my comfort zone. Okay, so how can I then now stretch it to make my brain think that I'm not trying to kill myself, right? But I'm wanting to take control of it. How can I do that? So I teach the goals to kind of methodologies or tricks and tips to kind of get people to take control of their brain, because for most of the time the brain is running us. We're not running the brain, right? Subconsciously we do so many things like breathing, we just do it without even thinking about it, right? It's just inside us. But so many of our thoughts happen and we're not even aware of it. And I help my clients to become more aware of the thoughts that they're having, right? And when they're having them, help them reframe them to say, hey, actually, is this really warranted, right? And all of that comes with giving yourself more grace, kindness, compassion to you, because you wouldn't treat this. You wouldn't say the stuff that you're saying to you in your own head to yourself, to your best friend, for instance, or to your nephew or to your child. You wouldn't say that to them. So why are you saying it to yourself, right? So it's just kind of like you say, that mirror, right? If you were to say this out loud to a mirror, how would you feel? You wouldn't feel great. So why are you doing this to yourself? So it's all guys, but that voice, yes, it's real. We can never eliminate it, but what we can do is quieten it, right? And then awareness.
I think your note on expanding the brain's protective measures is really unique in terms of not only acknowledging that the brain is here to keep us alive, right? But then as you're going through either your positive reinforcements, your breathing, how you're processing individual moments, you're actually kind of opening up that web, that umbrella to hopefully encompass more and more things underneath what is safe. And in turn, you have an easier time processing it, if I understood that right, correct?
Yes, it's all about, getting to the conscious part of it, right? You being conscious of what you're thinking. Because lots of it is just happening and you don't realize it, right? Typically that will come out when, people get angry or upset about something or stressed about something. There's this ingrained kind of reaction by, even simple things like, breathing. It's kind of like, when I go to the gym and, I want to push that, an extra 2 kgs or half a kg, right? I take a deep breath. Right, I focus on which bits of me, I need to make sure that I clench my core and my buttocks and my whatever, right, and really focus on what it is that I want, which muscles to work, right, to get that, because that's what my coach helps me to do, right? Say, look, focus on this. This is what I want you to do. There's a whole host of things that happen once you're used to doing. Working with weights, right? You kind of become kind of automatic, right? But it's that kind of thing. Instead of the physical bit, we do that with the brain, right? What is it? What state do you need to be? And typically it needs to be just a bit calmer. Let's not have all these noise going on here. Let's calm that. And very easy to calm, your nervous system, therefore your brain, is just take some breaths and really just focus on your breathing, right? Just no thoughts. Just focus on the rise and fall of your chest or your belly as you're breathing in and out, or how the air feels going up and out your nostrils, right? Just notice the temperature change as you're breathing in and out. Just focus on that one thing, because the brain can't actually focus on 2 things at different times. At the same time, right? It can only do one thing at a time. So focus on your breathing. Or something simple that I love to do is, if you're more sensory, is just rub 2 fingers together. Rub them with such a tension that you feel your fingertip itches, and just focus on that. All it requires is 10 seconds to kind of calm everything down, and then you can make that decision to say, oh, am I really scared, or why am I really angry? Why am I getting upset? And then when you're calm, you can then choose potentially a more appropriate response to the situation that doesn't require you shouting at the kids or being angry or throwing things or slamming doors or whatever, right? Whatever the situation is, right? Or using a tone that is not conducive to whatever it is that you're doing. Anything to bring you back to self and grounded. And the easiest thing that we have is our breath, because our breath is always there to support us. It will never leave us. It's always there. Or your heartbeat, right? Just notice your heartbeat. Put your hand on your heart, right? And notice your heartbeat. Anything that gets you grounded, right? And obviously, if you're in a high stakes meeting, right, you just don't, you don't want to close your eyes and, whatever. But there's lots of other things that you can do. Clench your feet and your toes, right? When you feel yourself getting upset, clench your feet inside your toes. It's going to see it, but you're just noticing that you're clenching your feet and your toes in your shoes. And you do that for 10 seconds, and it's literally only 3 breaths. It calms you. Then you're a bit more focused, a bit clear-headed instead of reacting.
You can't make funny faces though. The number of times I've seen people try and do something and then they're like sitting in the meeting looking like you're constipated.
Maybe if you're virtually, you just turn your camera off for a bit, right? But in a physical meeting, yes. Let's do something slightly less visual, right? Like you say, it's like people are like, oh, what's going on with you, Josh? You're right.
Yeah, like the number of times I'll have someone do some sort of motor mechanic or something, and then their hand starts doing this. And because they're thinking so hard about doing something, it's like they start to contort their body. I wanted to, and it might be a redundant question, but it's kind of, I think, where I kind of wanted to bring this to kind of wind down. You had said to me when we were talking about how to introduce you being everything to everyone. And it's something that, like, I think about some of the most incredible women, I think mothers that I get to train, my own mother, and I'm just using that as a demographic, but everything to everyone is such a powerful statement. And I believe a lot of people will step back and hear that and really it speaks to them. How do you help someone start to break down that concept in their own space? That it's not necessarily a bad thing, because that is the role of a mother. You have to be everything to your child. You are, the protector, the provider, the savior, the guide, like you are. But maybe the question is, how do you help that comment, everything to everyone, become less stressful? Or how do you help a person relax in that role and become more, I would just say happier?
Okay, so how I do it is that, yes, you're a parent, whether you're a mother or a father. Yes, and typically mums have, well, depending on your relationship, feel as if, I am the overall protector of the family and whatever else, right? That's okay. That's normal. That's natural, right? But my question is always, what is the story that you're really telling yourself? As parents, we typically come from not just parents, but everyone typically comes from a place of love when you want to help other people, right? Typically comes from a place of love. It doesn't never really comes from a place, I want to help you because I expect something in return, right? Especially when it comes to families, right? It's like, I just want to help, right? However, or protect, right? And especially when you've got little kids. But the question that I ask my clients is, how much of what it is that you do is for you as the parent rather than for your child, right? Because a lot of what goes on with parents is that they are continuing the habits that they grew up in. Because my grandparents did it to my parents and my parents did it with me, so I'm continuing that with my children. Because this is how they grew up. So it's just subconscious, this is how we treat our kids. And that is okay, providing that is you're doing it kind of like from a servant attitude for your kids, right? To help them. But if you're doing it from a space of, I'm getting my children to do this so it makes me look good, as in when my child does X, Y, and Z, that equals Doris is a good mother. That's the kind of awareness. Are you aware of how you're treating or how you're behaving, what that actually says about me? And for me, that's where I gained a lot of freedom for me and my children. Yes, my role is to be the mother, to protect my child, to feed them, clothe them, educate them, all that kind of stuff, right? But I'm no longer here to overtake responsibility. My children are their own individual beings with their own individual dreams, desires, and potential. It's not for me as a parent to decide. My role as a parent, for me, is to lay the foundation. And I just kind of explained it to someone else the other day. I'm not quite sure how this is going to resonate with you, but I see my role as a parent like I'm the trampoline, right? I'm sturdy. I will catch my children, but I'm the trampoline where my children can use me and use that foundation as a springboard to reach their potential, right? That is my role. Before I came onto this, I was the dragon mummy. I'm Chinese, right? So the dragon, tiger, all those scary animals, that was me, all rolled into one. And I really saw that my children will behave this way. When they behave this way, that equals I'm a good parent. When they misbehaved and I couldn't control them, that was a direct reflection on me. I used the mirror as my children straight back at me instead of straight back at my child. Yeah? So I used them to say, no, I'm only a worthy parent when my children behave, right? That's how I saw it, right? So it's kind of teasing all of that out to say, hey, yes, there are lots of things that you may want to do, but actually you can also ask for help, right? Most families have two parents, right? Even if there's only a single parent family, there's other people that you can ask for help for. And because you don't have to do everything all by yourself, there is help out there, because I kind of say to others now, I've always kind of felt a resistance to asking for help, but I've always been very free with offering my help to others. But when it came to me and asking for help, I felt this kind of bit of resistance to that. But I feel so good when I offer other people help and they want my help, right? So then that was the mirror back to myself to say, hey, how selfish are you, Doris, if you don't offer other people that same chance to have that really positive feeling? Because everybody wants to help everyone, right? Most people would like to just, yes, I can do this for you, not a problem, and I'll do it for you. And it makes you feel good, right? If I don't give the opportunity to others, then I'm being really selfish. It's a different way of looking at things.
Right.
So it's all that kind of untangling. What is it that you really want to do because you want to do it? Not for anything else, not for any reward or thinking that your child will love you more. Your child is going to love you anyway, right? Like, when you're whining at your child, nagging at your child, you might not like them, but you're still going to love them. Same vice versa, right? It's accepting how things are rather than wishing, yeah? And then it's kind of say, hey, actually, my life is going to be better or easier if I kind of give my child a little bit more responsibility because they're capable of doing it. I'm not saying that a 5-year-old could cook a 3-course dinner. I'm saying 5-year-olds just surely could, start helping you, put things in a dishwasher or take some clothes out or pack some things away, right? And they feel as if they're part of something, part of a collective, right? Not just you as a parent or slave. Let's be honest, right? Most parents are kind of slaves, right? It's going to say, hey, there are certain things that I'm very happy to do and without you asking, but actually you also have a part in this family, right? This family is a unit of 2 adults and however many kids, right? We're a team. And a team, we all play together, not just these two bigger people playing and you guys just watching, because that's not how it works, right? And it's building that together, right? And it's not just you, right? It's the communication with the partner, with the kids, right? If they're old enough to say, hey, how can we make this easier? And not shy away sometimes, and it's that huge, the communication that comes in and sharing the emotions, right? No hiding, so no, everything is always just fine and I just smile and, but behind it, I'm slowly just melting, right? It's kind of like, hey, it's okay. Mommy just needs 5 minutes because I'm a bit tired. And it's okay if mommy says, I just want quiet. Can you, for 10 minutes, and I'll tell Alexa to put a 10-minute timer on, for 10 minutes, I just don't want to hear mommy. It's okay. It's not selfish. The children will understand. You're not saying, I just need quiet. No, you're just saying, look, mommy just needs a bit quiet. I've been on my feet all day. I've just come back. You guys are fine. You can do drawing. You can do puzzles. You can do whatever, right? I just need 5 minutes. Right? Most parents just kind of try and hide, right? Depending on the age of the children. Mine are a little bit older now, so I can do that even half an hour now. But it's breaking out that, are you doing it for you? Or are you doing it for your children, for it to mean something about you? Right? Because the thing is that we can only control ourselves, right? That's what we get to. The coaching is that everything that you do, the only person that you can control is yourself. So once you're okay with you, then everything becomes easier. Everything becomes less of a chore, less of a burden, less of baggage.
And so that's realistically tying it all back in. That's what Happy Bunny's all about, right? Is helping someone become okay with themselves at a very base level. Be okay with the decisions they're making, the choices in life, and changing it if they're not.
Exactly that. And and there is no magic bullet or anything like that, right? It is a kind of a journey that you get to go on, right? And I've got the privilege to walk that journey, right, with my clients, and it's so much fun. And similar must be for you, right? You must, isn't it? It's so good when you can help people be a better version of themselves, right? Whatever that better version is for now, right? And it'll change again, right? And it's okay when it changes.
It's the best. That's why we do what we do. So how do we find you? Where do we go? How do we work with you if we have coaching? Tell me.
Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. So type in Doris Walsh and you'll find my content there, or on my website at happybunny.coach. That's where you'll find me. And I'm happy just to chat if there's anything, that any of your, audience wants to have a chat about, book a slot on my calendar through my website. Always happy to have a chat. It doesn't cost anything to see whether, it might be a fit or not. And if it's not fit, I can always send them elsewhere. Lots of resources as well to help them. I'm here to serve, and I love helping people.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Doris, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast today. This has been wonderful. And I know a lot of parents who are going to get this in their inbox from me. So I can't thank you enough.